The alarm bells rang through the bridge of the Time's Eternal Harmony asterisk. Admiral Zex Thara looked at her screen with confusion. Her ship was the pride of the Galactic Confederation fleet. Its crystal hull gleamed like a perfect jewel in space. Every line was smooth and beautiful, just like all proper starships should be. "Report," she said to her communications officer. "Admiral, we are getting a signal from the Sol system. It has been 3,000 years since we last heard from that sector." Zex Thara remembered her history lessons. 3,000 years ago, the galaxy had discovered a primitive species called humans. They lived on a small blue planet in a boring star system. Their technology was laughably simple. Chemical rockets that barely reached their own moon. Fusion drives that could barely push a ship between planets in their system. The galactic powers had all agreed. Humans were not worth the effort. The elegant Void Arcs, who built ships from living crystal, had dismissed them. The hive minds, whose insect-like forms created perfectly logical vessels, saw no potential. The energy beings called Stellarians could not even understand how such crude, matter-based life could survive. So, the galaxy had left humans alone. Everyone assumed they would either destroy themselves or remain forever trapped in their tiny system. Most experts believed they were probably extinct by now. "What kind of signal?" Zex Thara asked. "It appears to be a greeting, Admiral. They say they want to rejoin galactic society." Zex Thara almost laughed. After 3,000 years? What could they possibly have to offer? Her science officer, a tall void arc made of living crystal, spoke up. "Admiral, the energy signatures are strange. Their ships do not match any known design patterns." "Show me," Zex Thara ordered. The main screen flickered to life. What she saw made her gasp. Where she expected to see small, crude human ships, massive structures filled her view. These were not ships at all. They looked like floating cities, metal chunks welded together in no pattern she could understand. Parts stuck out at random angles. Some sections looked newer than others, as if the whole thing had been built piece by piece over many years. "That cannot be a starship," she whispered. "The readings confirm it, Admiral. Multiple vessels, each larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. But their design makes no sense. They violate every principle of proper engineering." Zex Thara studied the images. Her people had spent millions of years perfecting starship design. Every curve had a purpose. Every surface was smooth to reduce stress. Their ships were grown, not built, following the natural patterns that made them both beautiful and efficient. These human ships looked like someone had taken 100 different vessels and smashed them together. External components jutted out everywhere. She could see what looked like factories attached to the hull. Massive antennas and sensors stuck out like metal thorns. It was ugly beyond belief. "How do they even fly?" she asked. Her engineer, a methodical hive mind drone, buzzed thoughtfully. "Unknown, Admiral. Our computers cannot predict their flight characteristics. The design appears deliberately chaotic." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted. "They are requesting permission to approach for diplomatic contact." Zex Thara hesitated. Protocol demanded she report this to the Confederation Council. But curiosity won over caution. How had these primitive humans built such massive vessels? And why did they look so terrible? "Grant them permission, but keep our weapons ready. Admiral, our tactical systems cannot get a proper lock on their vessels. Too many external components interfere with targeting." This was becoming more mysterious by the moment. Zex Thara had commanded fleets for 200 years. She had fought pirates, rebels, and ancient automated defenses. She had never seen ships that her advanced systems could not properly analyze. The human vessel approached slowly. Up close, it was even more shocking. She could see the hull was made of dozens of different metals. Some sections gleamed, like new construction. Others were scarred and patched. It looked like this ship had been in 1,000 battles and rebuilt itself after each one. "Admiral, her science officer reported. I am detecting massive internal redundancy. They appear to have backup systems for their backup systems, and manufacturing facilities throughout the vessel. Manufacturing facilities. Manufacturing facilities? On a warship? It appears this vessel can build new components while in space. The energy signatures suggest active construction, even now. Zex Thara felt a chill. The galaxy had strict rules about ship construction. Vessels were built in proper shipyards by qualified species. The idea of a ship that could rebuild itself was disturbing. It suggested a lack of proper planning and order. Admiral. Incoming transmission from the human vessel. On screen. The face that appeared was clearly human. Zex Thara recognized the species from old records. 2 eyes, 1 mouth. Hair growing from the top of the head. But this human looked older and more confident than the primitives from 3,000 years ago. Greetings, Admiral. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth ship Times Defiant Harmony *. We appreciate your willingness to meet with us after so long. Captain Vasquez, Zex Thara replied carefully. We must admit surprise at your presence here. Our records indicated your species lacked interstellar capability. The human smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. We have learned much in 3,000 years, Admiral. Much about survival. Much about building things that last. Would you care to come aboard? We have much to discuss. Zex Thara looked at the ugly human ship. Every instinct told her this was wrong. Ships should be beautiful. Technology should follow proper patterns. These humans had clearly developed along dangerous paths. But she was curious. How had they survived alone for 3,000 years? How had they built such massive vessels? And why did their mere existence make her feel uneasy? Very well, Captain. We will send a diplomatic shuttle. As she prepared to meet these strange humans, Zex Thara wondered what other surprises awaited. The galaxy had changed little in 3,000 years. Perhaps it was time to discover what happened when a species was forced to change alone. The shuttle bay of the Times Defiant Harmony Times was nothing like what Zex Thara expected. Her elegant crystal shuttle looked tiny and fragile next to the massive human hangar. The walls were covered in pipes, cables, and machinery. Everything had a purpose, but nothing matched. Different sections were clearly built at different times, with different materials. Captain Vasquez met them at the airlock. She wore a simple gray uniform that looked practical rather than ceremonial. Behind her stood other humans, each carrying tools or data pads. These were clearly working people, not ceremonial guards. Welcome aboard the Times Defiant Harmony *, Vasquez said. I hope you don't mind the mess. We are always building something. Zex Thara tried to hide her shock as they walked through the ship. Every corridor was different. Some had smooth walls. Others were lined with exposed systems. Crew members moved past them carrying strange equipment. The humans worked while they walked, never stopping their tasks. Your ship is unique, Zex Thara said carefully. Vasquez laughed. You mean it looks like garbage welded together by drunk engineers? We get that a lot from each other, too. I did not mean to offend. No offense taken. Our ships are ugly by galactic standards. We know this, but they work. They entered what appeared to be a conference room. The table was made from different types of metal, bolted together. The chairs did not match, but everything was clean and functional. Please, sit, Vasquez said. Let me explain what humanity has been doing for the past 3,000 years. Zex Thara and her officers took seats. The human captain activated a holographic display that showed various ship designs. Each one looked more chaotic than the last. When the galaxy left us alone, we had a choice, Vasquez began. We could stay on Earth and live quietly, or we could learn to survive in space. We chose survival. The display showed early human ships. They were small and crude, just as Zexthera remembered. But then the designs began to change. Ships became larger and more complex. More importantly, they became stranger. We discovered something the galaxy never taught us. Vasquez continued. Space is hostile. Really hostile. Not just empty vacuum, but actively trying to kill you. Radiation, debris, equipment failure, hostile life forms, and worse. The galaxy has faced these challenges for millions of years, Zexthara's science officer said. We have developed proper solutions. Yes, you have, Vasquez agreed. You build beautiful ships that work perfectly under normal conditions. But what happens when conditions are not normal? She changed the display to show battle damage. Zexthara watched in horror as elegant galactic ships were torn apart by unexpected attacks. Their perfect design became a weakness when damaged. We learned to build ships that could lose half their systems and keep fighting, Vasquez explained. Ships that could repair themselves in the middle of battle. Ships that could adapt to threats we never imagined. This is chaos engineering, Zexthara's engineer buzzed. It violates all principles of efficiency. Does it? Vasquez asked. Let me show you something. She led them to a viewing port. Outside, they could see human crew members working on the ship's hull. But they were not just maintaining systems. They were actively building new components while in space. We call this the philosophy of redundant adaptation, Vasquez said. Every critical system has backups. Every backup has backups. If we lose something, we build a replacement. If that replacement is not good enough, we build a better one. But the waste, Zexthara protested. The inefficiency. Is it wasteful to survive? Our ships may use more resources, but they never stop working. How efficient is a perfect ship that dies the first time something unexpected happens? The human captain showed them through more of the vessel. Each section told a story of adaptation and survival. The medical bay had equipment for treating radiation poisoning, space madness, and injuries from creatures that did not exist in galactic databases. The engineering section contained fabrication units that could build almost anything from raw materials. You see, Admiral, humanity learned something in our isolation. The universe is not a safe place. It is not orderly. It does not follow rules. So we stopped trying to build ships for the universe we wanted. We built ships for the universe that actually exists. Zexthara was beginning to understand, but the concept disturbed her. Your approach seems to assume constant warfare and disaster. Because there is constant warfare and disaster. You just have not seen it yet. Because your perfect galactic civilization protects you from the real universe. That is impossible. Our sensor networks monitor all threats. Vasquez smiled again. That same unpleasant expression. Admiral, in the past 3,000 years, humanity has fought off 4 different AI uprisings, 3 invasions from dark space, 2 reality-eating plagues, and 1 war against beings that existed only in mathematical space. Your sensor networks never detected any of these because they were too strange to register as threats. The conference room fell silent. Zexthara felt a cold fear growing in her mind. That is impossible. Is it? Your systems are designed to detect known threats. What happens when something completely unknown attacks? Something that does not follow the rules? Before anyone could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the human ship. Vasquez was on her feet instantly, speaking into a communication device. Captain here, report. Pirates, sir. Void Reapers, 3 light cruisers. They are moving to attack both fleets. Vasquez looked at Zexthara. Admiral, I suggest you return to your ship immediately. You are about to see the difference between building ships for the galaxy you want and building ships for the galaxy you have. As they rushed back to the shuttle bay, Zexthara's mind raced. The human captain had spoken of threats beyond galactic knowledge, of ships built for unimaginable warfare. Now they would see if humanity's ugly vessels could actually fight. The shuttle launched just as the first pirate ships appeared on sensors. Zexthara watched from her bridge as the sleek, Void Reaper vessels moved into attack formation. They were beautiful ships, following proper galactic design principles, fast, elegant, and deadly. Against them, the human ship looked like a floating scrapyard. But as the battle began, Zexthara realized she was about to learn whether beauty or ugliness would survive when the shooting started. The pirate ships moved like deadly dancers through space. Their hulls were black metal that absorbed light, making them hard to target. The Void Reapers were known throughout the galaxy for their speed and ruthlessness. Their ships followed the same design principles as all civilized vessels, but twisted for predatory purposes. 3 enemy vessels approaching, Zexthara's tactical officer reported. Configuration suggests light cruiser class. They are fast and well-armed. Zexthara nodded. Her own ship, the Times Eternal Harmony **, was a diplomatic vessel, but it carried enough firepower to handle pirates. Her crystal hull could absorb and redirect energy weapons. Her systems were perfectly balanced for both defense and attack. Bring us to battle stations. Deploy standard defensive formation. On her screen, she watched the human ship Times Defiant Harmony Times respond to the threat. But nothing about their response was standard. Instead of forming up in proper battle formation, the ugly vessel seemed to spread out. Parts of its hull opened like flowers, revealing weapons that had been hidden inside the structure. "Admiral," her science officer said with surprise, "the human vessel is reconfiguring itself for combat. Parts of their ship are moving." Zexthara stared in amazement. Sections of the human ship were actually sliding into new positions. What had looked like random external components were actually modular weapon systems. The vessel was rebuilding itself for war while the pirates approached. "All ships. This is Reaper Leader," came the pirate transmission. "Surrender your cargo, and we will let you live. Resist, and we will take everything anyway. This is Admiral Zexthara of the Confederation. You will stand down immediately, or face destruction." The pirate leader laughed. "1 diplomat ship and 1 ugly human wreck? This will be easy." The pirates attacked without warning. Energy beams lanced out from their sleek vessels, targeting the Times Eternal Harmony Times first. Zexthara's ship absorbed the hits with its crystal structure, redirecting the energy into its own weapon systems. "Return fire," she ordered. The Times Eternal Harmony Times responded with precise, elegant beam weapons. The shots were perfectly aimed and properly calibrated. They struck the lead pirate ship, causing moderate damage to its shields. But the human response was completely different. The Times Defiant Harmony Times did not fire elegant beam weapons. Instead, chunks of metal shot out from various points on its hull. These were not proper missiles or energy bolts. They looked like pieces of scrap metal fired from electromagnetic railguns. "What are they firing?" Zexthara asked. "Unknown projectiles. They appear to be using debris as ammunition." The metal chunks struck the pirate ships with devastating force. Unlike energy weapons that could be absorbed by shields, these physical projectiles punched right through defensive barriers. One piece of scrap metal tore a hole through a pirate ship's engine section. "How is that possible?" her engineer buzzed. "They are using kinetic energy instead of directed energy," the science officer explained. "Primitive, but effective." The pirates regrouped and focused their fire on the human ship. Multiple energy beams struck the Times Defiant Harmony Times at once. For a moment, Zexthara thought the ugly vessel would be destroyed. The beams tore through its hull, vaporizing entire sections. But the human ship kept fighting. "Admiral, the human vessel should be disabled," her tactical officer reported. They have lost major hull sections and multiple systems show as offline. Yet the Times, defiant Harmony Times, was still shooting, still maneuvering, still fighting as if nothing had happened. How? Zexthara whispered. Her answer came as she watched the human ship in action. As sections were destroyed, new weapons appeared from inside the hull. As systems failed, backup systems came online. When entire compartments were vaporized, the ship simply sealed those areas and kept fighting with what remained. They have backup systems for everything, her science officer said in amazement. Losing half their ship barely affects their combat capability. But the humans were doing more than just surviving damage. They were fighting dirty. As the pirates maneuvered for another attack run, the Times' defiant Harmony Times released a cloud of what looked like metallic dust. The tiny particles spread through space, invisible to most sensors. What are they doing? Zexthara asked. The answer came when the pirates flew through the dust cloud. The particles stuck to their hulls and began eating through the metal. In seconds, the sleek pirate ships were covered in holes. Nanobots. Her engineer buzzed with horror. They released self-replicating nanobots, designed to consume enemy hull materials. That is illegal under galactic law. I do not think the humans care about galactic law right now, her science officer observed. The battle became even stranger. The human ship began using the environment as a weapon. It maneuvered near a small asteroid and used its railguns to break the rock into pieces. Then it used electromagnetic fields to hurl the asteroid fragments at the pirates like a massive shotgun blast. One pirate ship tried to escape by hiding behind a larger asteroid. The humans responded by ramming their ship directly into the rock. The impact should have destroyed any normal vessel. Instead, the Times' defiant Harmony Times smashed through the asteroid like it was made of paper, emerging on the other side to continue fighting. Their ship is designed for ramming attacks, Zexthara realized. Those ugly external structures are actually armor for collision warfare. The battle was almost over. 2 pirate ships were dead in space, their hulls eaten away by nanobots or smashed by kinetic weapons. The third was trying to escape. But the human ship was not done. As the pirate fled, the Times' defiant Harmony Times launched what looked like a communication probe. The small device chased down the escaping pirate ship and attached itself to the hull. What is that probe doing? Zexthara asked. Her answer came as the pirate ship began to slow down. Systems throughout the vessel started failing one by one. It appears to be a hacking device, her communication officer reported. It is taking control of the enemy ship's systems. Within minutes, the pirate ship was dead in space, completely under human control. This is Captain Vasquez, came the transmission from the human ship. Pirate threat eliminated. Is everyone intact? Zexthara looked around her bridge. Her ship had taken minor damage and was already repairing itself with its crystal healing properties. But the human vessel looked like it had been through a war. Entire sections were missing. Scorch marks covered the hull, yet it was still fully operational. We are undamaged, Captain. But your ship appears severely damaged. This is just cosmetic. We will have it fixed in a few hours. Our manufacturing bays are already printing replacement hull sections. As Zexthara watched, she could see the human ship beginning to repair itself. Robotic arms extended from hidden compartments, welding new metal plates over the damaged areas. It was fixing itself while floating in space. Admiral, her science officer said quietly, I believe we need to reconsider our assumptions about human technology. Zexthara nodded. She had just watched a battle that violated everything she knew about proper warfare. The humans had won not through superior technology or elegant tactics, but through sheer, stubborn refusal to stop fighting. Their ugly ship had survived damage that would have destroyed any civilized vessel. More disturbing, they had fought using methods that most species would consider primitive or illegal. But they had won. And now Zex Thera was beginning to understand what Captain Vasquez had meant about building ships for the universe that actually existed. Perhaps beauty and order were luxuries that only worked in peaceful times. Perhaps ugliness and chaos were what it took to survive when the universe tried to kill you. The repair work began immediately after the battle. Admiral Zex Thara watched in fascination as human and alien engineers worked side by side on both vessels. The differences in their approaches were shocking. Her Void Arc engineers moved with fluid grace, allowing their crystal bodies to merge temporarily with damaged sections of the Time's Eternal Harmony asterisk. The ship healed itself like a living thing, growing new crystal structures to replace what had been lost. It was beautiful and efficient. The human engineers worked like controlled chaos. They swarmed over the damaged sections of the Times. Defiant Harmony Times, with tools, welders, and portable fabrication units. They cut away, destroyed components, and bolted new ones in place. Nothing matched, but everything worked. "Your repair methods are so different from ours," Zex Thera said to Captain Vasquez as they stood in the observation deck. "Different universes require different solutions," Vasquez replied. "Your ship heals because your people designed it to work with your natural abilities. Our ships are built to be repaired by whatever we have available." And, Vasquez. But surely there must be more efficient ways? Vasquez pointed to a section where human workers were installing a new weapon mount. The new component was clearly from a different manufacturer than the original. It was a different color, different shape, and connected with different types of cables. "Efficient for what?" she asked. "That weapon mount came from the pirate ship we just captured. In 6 hours, we will have integrated their technology into our systems. Their shields, their engines, their computers, all of it will become part of our ship." Zex Thara felt disturbed by this concept. "You cannibalize enemy vessels?" "We learn from every encounter. Every battle teaches us something new. Every enemy we face shows us a different way to build, to fight, to survive. Why would we ignore those lessons?" They were joined by Chief Engineer Martinez, a short human woman covered in grease stains. She carried a tablet showing the repair progress. "Captain, we have analyzed the pirate ship's shield generators. Their frequency modulation is different from anything in our databases. We can integrate the technology, but it will take 12 hours to modify our power grid." "Do it," Vasquez ordered. "What about their computer systems?" "Interesting stuff. They use quantum encryption we have not seen before. We can crack it, but we should probably talk to the Confederation about it first. This might be stolen tech from one of their member species." Zex Thara was surprised that the humans would consider galactic law at all. "You would share captured technology?" "Information wants to be free," Martinez said with a grin. "Besides, if this encryption is stolen, the original owners might want it back, and they might have other tech worth trading for." This attitude puzzled Zex Thara. Her own people would analyze captured technology in secret, sharing only what was necessary for diplomatic purposes. The humans seemed willing to trade everything. "Why are you so open with your discoveries?" she asked. Vasquez led them deeper into the ship, toward the engineering section. "Because isolation kills. 3,000 years ago, the galaxy left us alone. We could have turned inward, become suspicious and secretive. Instead, we decided that knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied." They entered a vast chamber filled with manufacturing equipment. Robotic arms worked constantly, building new components from raw materials. But what shocked Zex Thara was the variety of technologies being produced. "Is that Void Arc crystal growth technology?" she asked, pointing to one station. "Reverse engineered from diplomatic gifts we received centuries ago," Martinez confirmed. "We studied it, improved it, and integrated it with our own manufacturing. That station over there uses hive mind collective processing algorithms. The one next to it employs Stellarian energy manipulation techniques. You have stolen our technologies? Learned from them, Vasquez corrected. Every species we have ever encountered has taught us something. We take the best ideas from everyone and combine them in new ways. They stopped at a massive display showing ship designs. Hundreds of different vessels filled the screen, each one unique. But Zexthara began to see patterns. This ship used void arc crystal components in the hull. That one employed hive mind modular construction. Another incorporated energy technologies that looked Stellarian. You have been building hybrid ships, she realized. For 3,000 years, Vasquez confirmed. Every design incorporates lessons learned from every species we have encountered, including species you have never heard of. What do you mean? Martinez pulled up new displays, showing creatures that made Zexthara gasp. Beings made of living shadow. Machines that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Entities that seemed to be made of pure mathematics. The galaxy you know is just the surface, Vasquez explained. Below the civilized systems, in the dark spaces between stars, other things exist. Things that your sensor networks cannot detect because they are too strange to register as life. That is impossible. Is it? Your technologies are based on understanding normal matter and energy. What happens when you encounter something that exists partially outside normal space? Something that thinks in ways so alien that your computers cannot recognize it as intelligent? Zexthara felt her worldview shifting. You have fought these things? Fought them. Talked to them. Learned from them. And sometimes been forced to destroy them. Not because they were evil, but because they were so different. That peaceful coexistence was impossible. Martinez showed more images. Ships that seemed to be built from solidified time. Weapons that fired compressed gravity. Defensive systems that worked by making attackers forget they had ever wanted to fight. Every encounter taught us something new about what was possible, she explained. We learned that the universe is far stranger and more dangerous than the galactic community realizes. So we built our ships to handle anything. But your designs are so chaotic, so inefficient. Are they? Vasquez asked. Let me show you something. She led them to a simulation chamber where holographic displays showed various ship designs under stress. First came elegant galactic vessels. Under normal conditions, they performed beautifully. But as the simulated conditions became more extreme, the ships began to fail. Watch what happens when we introduce unknown variables, Vasquez said. The simulation added new threats. Weapons that ignored shields. Attacks that targeted the quantum structure of matter itself. Enemies that existed in multiple dimensions. The elegant ships died quickly. Their perfection became a weakness when faced with the truly unknown. Then the simulation showed human ships facing the same threats. The ugly, chaotic vessels adapted. When normal shields failed, they improvised new ones. When conventional weapons proved useless, they built different weapons from available materials. When enemies attacked in impossible ways, the humans responded with equally impossible defenses. You see, Vasquez said, we do not build efficient ships. We build adaptable ships. Ships that can learn, change, and survive, no matter what they face. But the cost, the resources wasted on redundancy. What is the cost of extinction? Martinez asked. Your beautiful ships work perfectly until they meet something they were not designed to handle. Then, they die. And so do their crews. Zexthara was beginning to understand the human philosophy. They had spent 3,000 years preparing for the unknown. Every ugly component, every redundant system, every chaotic design element served a purpose. Survival in a universe that actively tried to kill anything that lived. Why are you telling us this? She asked. You could have kept these advantages secret. Vasquez looked serious for the first time since they had met. Because something is coming, Admiral. Something that will test every ship design in the galaxy. Something that your perfect vessels will not be able to handle alone. What kind of threat? The kind that ended the last galactic civilization. The kind that made us decide 3,000 years ago that beauty was a luxury we could not afford. As if summoned by her words, alarms began ringing throughout both ships. But these were not battle alarms. These were the deep, resonant tones reserved for the most serious emergencies. Report, Vasquez barked into her communicator. Captain, we are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. Something big is coming out of deep space. Something that does not match any known configuration. Zexthara felt a chill run through her crystal structure. After seeing what humans considered normal threats, she was terrified to discover what could make them sound worried. How long until it arrives? Vasquez asked. 6 hours, Captain. And Captain? Whatever it is bigger than a planet. The thing that emerged from deep space defied every law of physics Zexthara knew. It was not a ship in any recognizable sense. It was a massive structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Parts of it faded in and out of reality. Other sections appeared to be moving through time at different speeds. What are we looking at? She whispered, from the bridge of the time's eternal harmony asterisk. Her science officer's crystal form was flickering with distress patterns. Admiral, our sensors cannot make sense of the readings. The object appears to be approximately 3,000 kilometers across, but it is also somehow larger and smaller at the same time. Captain Vasquez's voice came over the communication channel. Admiral, we need to talk. Right now. Minutes later, both command crews were gathered in the human ship's conference room. The atmosphere was tense. Even the usually calm humans looked worried. It is called the entropy swarm. Vasquez began without preamble. It is what destroyed the last galactic civilization. Approximately 50,000 years ago. That is impossible, Zexthara protested. Our records go back millions of years. Your records go back to when your current civilization began, Chief Engineer Martinez corrected. Before that, there were others. The entropy swarm consumed them all. The holographic display showed ancient records that humanity had somehow preserved. Images of vast civilizations that once spanned the galaxy. Beautiful cities, perfect ships, and elegant technologies that made current galactic achievements look primitive. What happened to them? Zexthara's engineer buzzed nervously. The same thing that happens to all civilizations that prioritize perfection over adaptability, Vasquez said grimly. They built beautiful, efficient systems that worked perfectly under normal conditions. When the entropy swarm arrived, their perfection became their weakness. The display showed the ancient war. Elegant alien ships faced the chaotic, impossible structures of the swarm. The beautiful vessels died by the billions, their perfect designs unable to adapt to an enemy that broke the laws of reality itself. The swarm consumes order, Martinez explained. It feeds on efficiency, elegance, and predictability. The more perfect a system is, the easier it is for the swarm to devour. How do you know all this? Zexthara demanded. Because we found the survivors, Vasquez said quietly. Deep in the dark spaces between stars, scattered remnants of the old civilizations still exist. They taught us about the swarm. They warned us it would return. Why did it not attack humanity before? Because we were too chaotic, too inefficient, too ugly to be worth consuming. The swarm feeds on perfection. Our chaos starves it. The implications hit Zexthara like a physical blow. You built your ships specifically to fight this threat. For 3,000 years, Martinez confirmed. Every redundant system, every backup component, every ugly modification was designed with one purpose: to survive contact with something that consumes perfect design. Alarms rang throughout both ships. The entropy swarm was moving closer, and its presence was affecting reality itself. Space around the massive entity began to twist and bend. All Confederation ships. This is Admiral Zex Thara. She broadcast to her fleet. Prepare for combat against unknown hostile. Deploy standard battle formation. Admiral, wait. Vasquez interrupted. Standard tactics will not work. Your ships are too perfect, too predictable. The swarm will consume them instantly. Then what do you suggest? Let us teach you to be ugly. What followed was the strangest strategy meeting in galactic history. Human engineers worked frantically with alien crews, deliberately sabotaging the elegant perfection of Confederation ships. They welded random components to crystal hulls. They introduced chaos algorithms into hive mind collective processing systems. They taught energy beings to create deliberate inefficiencies in their forms. This is madness, Zex Thara's science officer protested as humans attached crude metal plates to his crystal structure. Yes, it is, Martinez agreed cheerfully. Madness is harder for the swarm to digest than sanity. The modification process was painful for species that had spent millions of years perfecting their technologies. Watching humans deliberately make their beautiful ships ugly felt like vandalism. But as the entropy swarm drew closer, they had no choice. Confederation fleet. This is Admiral Zex Thara. Deploy chaotic formation. Repeat. Deploy chaotic formation. The order would have been impossible to follow a day earlier. But now, with human modifications, the elegant ships moved in deliberately random patterns. They fired weapons at incorrect intervals. They used defensive systems inefficiently. It saved their lives. The entropy swarm attacked with weapons that defied description. Reality-eating beams that should have disintegrated anything they touched passed harmlessly through ships that had been made deliberately imperfect. Gravity weapons that should have crushed perfect crystal structures found nothing solid enough to grip on vessels covered with random metal chaos. It is working, Zex Thara gasped as her ship survived a direct hit from a weapon that bent space itself into knots. The battle became a strange dance of deliberate inefficiency. Ships that should have moved in perfect formation scattered randomly. Weapons fired at wrong targets with incorrect timing. Defense systems activated in sequences that made no logical sense. And it worked. The entropy swarm, designed to consume perfection, found nothing to feed on. The chaotic, ugly fleet confused its reality-warping attacks. The deliberately inefficient ships survived hits that should have erased them from existence. All ships, concentrate fire on the central mass, Vasquez ordered. Use kinetic weapons only. Energy weapons are too efficient. The combined fleet opened fire with every primitive kinetic weapon they could deploy. Chunks of metal, pieces of asteroid, and even garbage fired from electromagnetic railguns struck the entropy swarm. The entity, confused by attacks that made no logical sense, began to retreat. It is withdrawing, Zex Thara reported with amazement. Not withdrawing, Martinez corrected. Starving. It cannot feed on our chaos. So it is looking for a more ordered civilization to consume. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the entropy swarm had disappeared back into deep space, seeking easier prey. The combined fleet floated in space, damaged but alive. Admiral, Vasquez said over the communication channel, we need to discuss the future. The meeting that followed would reshape galactic civilization. For the first time in millions of years, the elegant species of the galaxy admitted that their pursuit of perfection had made them vulnerable. We propose a new alliance, Zex Thara announced to the Galactic Council weeks later. Humans will teach us their chaos engineering principles. In return, we will share our advanced technologies with them. The integration process was difficult. Species that had spent eons perfecting their designs now had to learn deliberate imperfection. Beautiful ships were modified with ugly but adaptive components. Perfect systems were deliberately made redundant and chaotic. But the results were remarkable. The new hybrid ships combined the best of both approaches. They were efficient enough to function in normal space, but chaotic enough to survive the impossible. Admiral Zex Thara stood on the bridge of her new command ship, the Time's Elegant Chaos *. Its crystal hull was covered with human-designed metal modifications. Its perfect systems had been deliberately made redundant and adaptable. It was, by traditional standards, hideous. It was also the most capable ship in the galaxy. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving a distress call from the Outer Rim. Unknown hostiles attacking merchant vessels." Zex Thara smiled. A year ago, she would have deployed elegant ships to deal with the threat efficiently. Now, she had better options. "Deploy the ugly fleet," she ordered. "And remind the crew that beautiful ships die when something unexpected happens. Our ships are too stubborn and too weird to die." As her chaotic, adaptive vessels jumped to hyperspace, Zex Thara reflected on the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy. Sometimes the most beautiful thing in the universe was something ugly enough to keep existing when everything else died. The galaxy had learned to embrace its inner chaos, and it was stronger for it. In the depths of space, the entropy swarm searched for its next target. But it would find the galaxy a much less appetizing meal than it had been 3,000 years ago. Perfection was no longer the galactic ideal. Survival was. And nothing survived better than something too ugly and too stubborn to know when it should die.